The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Dylan Mangan of the Southern Star and I'm joined in studio by Kieran McCarthy, sports editor of the Southern Star. Before we get into things, I'd like to give our listeners just a gentle reminder to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. This week, we'll be hearing from Castlehaven duo Rachel Whelton and Emma Daly after their memorable 2022 season, which will be honoured with a special achievement award at this weekend's West Cork Sports Star Awards. Kieran has been speaking to them and he's also been speaking to Glengarriff athletics star Darragh McElhinney following his brilliant 4th place finish at the European Athletics Indoor Championships at the weekend. But first, we want to focus on Cork GAA. Kieran, Cork came away from Cusack Park with another great win in this tight Division 2, beating the Banner County by 3-10 to 1-8. We've spoken on the podcast in recent weeks about what Cork needs to do to take things to the next level. Is this another step in that progress, like the consistency and beating teams around them?
100%, because I think we mentioned last week, Dylan, that Cork and Clare have been very close in the last couple of years when it comes to meeting in the league. There was 3 years in a row there where Clare actually beat Cork in Division 2 of the league, and that's not too long ago. So for Cork to go up into Clare's backyard and to beat them so convincingly, like you said, 3-10 to 1-8, and after a very impressive second half performance for Cork, it's just another step in the right direction. And what it is as well, it's another good performance. And I was talking to John Cleary about this week, and our listeners can read it in terms of Southern Star. But there's a consistency now to the Cork performances that we haven't seen in a while. John made the point that Cork have now played 8 games this year, including the 3 in the McGrath Cup. They've won 6 of them. When you look at Division 2 of the league, Cork have won 3 of their 5 games. The games they lost were to Dublin at home, where Brian Hurley rattled the crossbar in the 7th minute of injury time, and they could have won that game. And the first game was that loss to Meath, which was disappointing, but that has been the outlier, because since then the Cork performances have been really good, and they're beating teams around them, and they've now back-to-back league wins against Limerick and Clare, and they're the 2 teams that are on Cork's side of the Munster Championship that's going to throw in April. So it's looking positive for Cork. They're, like I said, they're 3rd in the league. They're kind of in a promotion conversation here. But looking at the Division 2 table, Derry and Dublin are ahead of them, and Cork need results to fall in their favour. But putting that aside for a second, it's certainly been progress, because we're now seeing consistent Cork performances game after game.
Do you think the momentum is something that Cork can hang on to, or are we kind of a little bit in danger of getting carried away with, like, if you're thinking about it, presuming that they beat Louth, that's me getting carried away now. It's a huge game then against Derry, but like Louth are no easy game either.
Louth are also on 6 points like Cork, and Louth are having quite a good Division 2 campaign as well. But it's almost, like we said last week, going away to Clare and trying to get a result in Cusack Park was the next challenge for this Cork team, and they achieved that. Now their next challenge is go away to Louth on Sunday week and try and beat a Louth team that are going quite well. That's their next challenge. And I know it's a cliche, but John Cleary says it's game by game. That's all they're focusing on. Now they're focusing on Louth. After that, they'll focus on Derry. After that, they're going to focus on Clare in the Munster Championship. So they're really taking it game by game. But what I looked at after the win last Sunday is we talk about the consistency of the Cork performances, and you can trace that back to the consistency of the Cork selection. 11 players have started in each of the 5 games so far, which shows the consistency of the Cork team. It would have been 12 if Brian O'Driscoll didn't get injured. against Limerick in the second last game, and he missed a game against Clare last weekend. So that consistency in selection is leading to consistency in results, and they're getting to performances. So it's trending upwards, but there's always a but. It's still very much a work in progress. There will be hiccups. Because every team would lose games, so it's not all going to be plain sailing. But it's so far so good.
Yeah, it's obviously still early in the year as well, so a lot can change over the next couple of weeks and months. But just moving on now to a little closer to West Cork. The hurling county leagues were back at the weekend, and there were West Cork teams in action across the divisions. I've just picked out some results here. In Division 2, Corsie Rovers beat Mallow in Carrigoon by 17 points to 111. Division 3, Newcestown won at home against Blarney, 119 to 17 points. Valley Rovers got off to a good start in Division 4. They beat Cloyne by 24 points to 10. And Agabalog, am I pronouncing that right? Ahabolog.
That's the one.
I'll learn it.
Yeah.
Had a high score draw with Ballyhay, 2-14 apiece. And then in Division 5, Drinagh Rangers and Agada shared the spoils with 16 points each. Kieran, what are the big takeaways from the weekend's results?
Our feature game in this Thursday Southern Star is Drinagh Rangers draw against Agada. That was 16 points apiece, and we've a reaction from Paul Holland, the Argentine manager there, and he was delighted with the result. It was a game that could have gone either way. Argentine were well up, then Agada came back and they were actually leading by a point in injury time, but Rangers veteran John Michael O'Callaghan stepped up with a colossal free, 90 metres the match report says, but this is almost the stuff of legend. In 2 years' time it'll be the free from 400 metres that sailed over the bar to level it for Argentine. But Paul Holland was making the point that Argentine are playing a division higher than they were last year, and he was delighted with the result because Argentine, I think they'd only 17 or 18 players togged off, and they were missing a good few as well for various reasons. So it was a solid start for them, getting a draw in their first game. So almost like we said last week when we were talking about the start of the Football League, it's such early days, and it's you just can't read too much into the open round of the leagues. But for new management teams, it's just a chance for them to get a look at what they're working. I think Bandon lost to Bandon had a defeat in the first game, but Newcestown won. So and I think Newcestown and Bandon they're in the same division. I think they are
Division 3.
Yeah, so they'll be meeting quite soon as well, if memory serves me correct. So there's some tasty games coming up, but it's, again, almost to reiterate what we said after the Football League, it's just good to see the county leagues are up and running. It's the local stuff. It's the club football and hurling. So yeah, we're inching towards the summer in the championship. You can see the stretch in the evenings now. We're all starting, well, bar the cold weather this week, but we're all starting to feel that bit better, more excited about what's coming in terms of the club championship. So it was a good weekend for some of the West Cork teams, but focus switches back to the football this weekend.
Yeah, and we'll have lots on the West Cork leagues, the county leagues, in this week's Southern Star as well. Just moving on very briefly before we go for a break, we just want to talk a little bit about soccer, and there's a big game in the West Cork Premier Division at the weekend as defending champs Drinagh Rangers beat Skibbereen by 2-0. And Kieran, things are going fairly smoothly for Drinagh at the moment, aren't they, in the league? Yeah,
they had a 2-0 win against Skib Barry O'Driscoll Hawthorne with his 58,940 millionth goal in the West Cork League. He was on target. Barry's just prolific. He's well into his 20. He's well over 20 goals again this season, and he's hit nearly over 20 goals in every season for the last I don't know how many years. He's just a stalwart of that Drinagh team. So that was a good win over a good Skibbereen team. So the state of play at the top of the West Cork League Premier Division is Drinagh Rangers are on 32 points, and they're 10 points ahead of Bunratty United, who are in second place. But Bunratty have 2 games in hand. Clonakilty Soccer Club are also on 22 points, but they've played the same number of games as Drinagh. But possibly one to watch are Dunmanway Town. Okay, they're 12 points behind Drinagh right now, but they have 3 games in hand, so they can close the gap and put a bit of pressure on Drinagh. But it's almost that old question, Dylan. Are you better to have the points on the board or the games in hand? I think Drinagh would be quite confident where they are. They're sitting pretty at the top of the league. They're the defending champions, so they know how to win league titles. So it's all going according to plan for them this weekend. And also, this weekend coming up, the focus switches from the league to the Beamish Cup, and we have Drinagh Rangers against Dunmanway Town. So you have two of the title rivals in the Premier Division clashing in a quarter-final of the Beamish Cup. So that's going to be a huge game, a massive game, and who knows, psychologically it could have an impact.
Yeah, Dunmanway managed to beat Drinagh there. It could potentially derail the Drinagh season. And speaking of potential derailings, it's a nice little segue there, isn't it?
I thought I'd get away with this one.
From one Premier Division to another, Kieran, last week we didn't get a chance to speak about United and their brilliant Carabao Cup win, but we'll make time this week. 7 goals.
The fact we didn't reflect on the win against Newcastle, I think we should spend a good 2 minutes talking about that Carabao Cup win, but reality hit United fans with a bang on Sunday, 7-0 against Liverpool. Not much I can say, Dylan. I know you're a Liverpool fan, and a lot of Liverpool fans listen to this podcast. It was just a dreadful day at the office for United. I'm hoping it's a blip. I'm hoping it's a once-off. I don't think we're going to go back to the Ole Gunnar and the Ralph Ragnick and capitulations week after week. So I'm hoping it was a blip. But Jesus, what a blip to suffer.
Some blip. Gary Neville was calling it a freak result, and if it was a freak result, I'll happily call it that. But it just felt like everything Liverpool touched turned to gold.
It turned to gold as well. That's it. And it's no matter what happens for the rest of the season, and hopefully Touchwood United finish above Liverpool in the league, which I still think United will, and United might pick up another piece of silverware. But that game will always be there. It'll always 7-0. It's a historic defeat for United to suffer their biggest in 90 odd years, and is it the most goals conceded to Liverpool since they were Newton Heath or something along
before
that.
the war anyway. It's something like that.
So it's going to endure. It's like when United lost 6-1 to City all those years ago, and that kind of heralded the start of City's empire that they went on to build. So that's almost even though I'm hoping it was a blip, the most painful fact is it was to Liverpool of all teams. Not Liverpool, because United fans won't be left to forget this one in a hurry.
Just one quick thing on it as well. There is maybe a worrying trend here, because last season Liverpool 5, United 0. This season Liverpool 7, United 0. City scored 6, Brentford 4. That's a lot of goals to be shipping.
A lot of blips too, isn't it?
A lot of blips. So we'll see how that progresses over the next few weeks. We're going to take a break now, and we'll be back with more after this.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. Now, Darragh McElhinney ran a personal best at the European Athletics Indoor Championships in Turkey at the weekend. He finished the 3,000 metre event in a brilliant time of 7:44.72. It wasn't quite to be for the Glengarriff man, who finished 4th, Kieran, and narrowly missed out on a medal by, I think it was 0.7 of a second. Yeah. So close. And it's fair to say that Darragh was gutted.
He was gutted immediately after the race, and he was talking to David Gillick of RT for the first time in a long time. Darragh was speechless, and anyone who knows Darragh knows that he's a man well able to talk, because it just hit home how close he came to winning a medal at a major championships. And we'll hear from him quite soon on the podcast, and a couple of days on, and he's still gutted. It's painful, and this is one he says is going to hurt for a while, because Darragh produced the race of his life to come less than 0.7 of a second of winning a bronze medal at a European Championships. So close. And we think back to 2 years ago when Phil Healy finished 4th at the Euro indoors as well, and that was in the women's 400 metres. She came so close as well, but just not close enough. And I think that's what gnaws away at athletes of that calibre, that level, that they're just so close, and they're driven to succeed, and they want to win, and they want to win medals. So it does hurt them when they come up just short. But you would hope when that rawness subsides that Darragh can, and he will take the positives from this, because he produced a huge performance on one of the biggest days of his career. To run a PB in a championship race is some going, and I think he bettered his PB by 1 second. So there are a lot of positives to take from this. And we can never forget that Darragh's just 22 years of age. He's still so young. And in Thursday Southern Star, I'm chatting to Darragh's coach, Emmett Dunleavy, and he makes the point that endurance athletes don't hit their peak till the late 20s. And here is Darragh finishing fourth in the Euro indoors when he's 22. So if, I know it's a big if, and I'm touching wood here, if he can keep on this same trajectory and the same path, there are bigger and better days in front of Darragh. But as you'll hear now, he still can't hide his disappointment that he missed out on a medal. Darragh, we're a couple of days on from the men's 3,000 metre final in Istanbul last Sunday, where you just missed out on a brilliant bronze medal by less than 7/10 of a second. And you were speaking to David Gillick of RT straight after the race, and you could see the raw emotion and how much it hurt you to miss out in the medal. So we're a few days on now. So how do you reflect on the race and how it panned out?
I suppose like the initial kind of, I suppose, pain or hurt of being so close is kind of still there, to be honest. Like, and I think it kind of always will be in a way, like, you know what I mean? Because it's, you know, like, it's always going to be like a somewhat of a kind of missed opportunity or like whatever. And like, I suppose, when I kind of first came off the track, I was kind of chatting with David straight away, and I was kind of, obviously I was a little bit like, you know, I was kind of still a bit flustered after that. I was kind of talking, and then it was only really like towards the end of the interview, and then for the probably kind of 30 to 40 minutes after that, I was like, it really began to sink in, and it was just, I was painful, like, but do you know, like, I suppose, like, the race itself, I think went actually really well. Like, I think I ran both the races at the weekend. Like, they were probably, well, to be fair, definitely the final was probably one of my best ever actual performances, like, you know, in terms of execution, and even just kind of like the stats on like in terms of the pace of the race, and like, you know, the time we ended up running, and it being as slow as it was through halfway and stuff like that, is that, like, it probably was, like, in a sense, my best run ever, but it just feels like it probably has hurt more than any run ever as well. So it's kind of a bit of a tough one to, like, kind of analyze and process, I suppose.
Like you said, it is so tough to process, because the best run of your life, a new PB in a major championship final, and to produce such a mature performance, but then, like you said there, it hurts just to come up just short. So, but you can still take so many positives from this, Darragh, like, and there's stuff you can use here going forward.
No, there is 100%. Like, I suppose I've learned firstly a lot about kind of just ways to run championship races a bit more effectively, like, and I think I kind of implemented that into both the heats and the final, and it definitely allowed me to probably run as well as I could have. Like, I suppose, like, it's funny, like, obviously after the race, like, a lot of people kind of saying, like, oh, do you think if you went earlier and things like that? But it's like, it's kind of hard, like, it's hard to explain, I suppose, when you're in it, that, like, it's not as simple as just start running quicker earlier, you know what I mean? Like, I closed my last mile of the race in 3:58, which is my actual mile PB in itself, let alone having to run the first 1,400 meters and having a race the day before. And it's like, you know, kind of looking at it and saying, should I have just gone earlier, is basically a different way of saying, oh, should I have just ran faster? You know what I mean? Which is the simple way of winning any race, is just, oh, I should have just ran faster. So it was a little bit, like, annoying from that point of view afterwards. You're kind of like, you know, dealing with a lot of, like, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that, when, like, to be honest, in reality, I think I probably ran it the best I could have. And, like, it was funny as well, even, like, when I was coming around with about 150 to go, and I could see Bibic, the guy who came third from Serbia, he was, like, beginning to tie up a little bit, and I thought I was going to catch him. And then I think basically what happened was he didn't realise I was coming, and then obviously the roars in the stadium probably got a little bit louder, and he turned around with like 80 to go and ended up just like putting in that tiny little extra spurt that just kind of kept the distance between the two of us. So it's fine margins, like, you know what I mean? Like, on another day he would have died that little bit more, and I would have pipped him, or he wouldn't have noticed I was coming, and I might have pipped him. And, you know, there's loads of, like, little things that could have happened, or, like, could have been a little bit different that would have changed the result. But I think performance wise it was still probably, like, the best I could have done, because you know, like, you're trying to set yourself up to close really fast, but, like, it's hard to do that if you're wasting a lot of energy early on. And the best place to conserve the energy for me was ended up being wherever I was, like 9th or 10th or wherever, just taking off the laps consistently and, like, feeling good doing it. And, like, I know that if I hadn't done that, there's no way I would have been able to close as hard as I did and get as close to a medal as I did.
Like, talking about those positives that you can take from this, we're just a couple of seconds off Inga Britson, who ran a national record, I think. Mikel, who finished second, I think he had the season's best time, and they're two of the best athletes out there. And you were you've held your own in that company and came so close. So in terms of confidence and self-belief, does this change your mindset going forward now? Like when you go into your next big championship, European level or whatever, that you know now that you can contend with the elite?
Yeah, it definitely does, to be fair. I think like it does, like, I suppose. Yeah, like I suppose obviously we're recording this podcast less than 48 hours afterwards, and for me it's probably hard to like see that right now. Do you know what I mean? Even though like I know that like if it was somebody else was after coming forward at the Europeans, these are all the things I'd be saying to them as well. You know what I mean? And expect them to feel. But it's just when you're right in the middle of it, it's hard sometimes to see it like that. But you do still have that feeling of like that you have gone to a new level, and that like, as you say, like the next time you go or next time I go out to race, and be it like in a, you know, like in a pace race or like a championship race, whatever, like I think my expectations will be a little bit higher. And yeah, obviously getting as close to the front few lads as I did, and then also like a lot of the lads that I beat had ran like a good bit quicker than me before this race. Like there was a lot of guys in it that have ran kind of 13:10 for 5k and sub 7:40 for 3k and stuff like that, and I was like, the fact that I was able to put like a good bit of distance into them in the last lap and earn the last like k shows that I am in like really good shape. But I suppose it's you know, you'd nearly rather win a medal and not deserve it than feel like, you know, you could have and just missed it. Because it's, in a sense, it's like you get all this confidence and it's great to be as high up as it is and all that. But like the actual raw result of it is like, I may as well have came 15th. Do you know what I mean? Which is sometimes kind of the way I can feel. But yeah, I know I'm, you know, getting closer to there or whatever, and just have to be patient. But it's yeah, as I say, it's just definitely going to take a bit of time for me to kind of get over it, I think.
It's fourth position, like it sucks. Like it's the worst position finishing. Even talking to the rowers before, Skibbereen rower Aoife Casey, she finished fourth in so many races before she won her breakthrough medal at the World Championships last year. And she's spoken to me before just about that, how finishing fourth, how it's in her mind now, I cannot finish fourth. Like she's prefer to finish sixth than finish fourth. You know, kind of. It's the same in every sport, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and especially like I suppose even beforehand, like before the heats, like I was kind of thinking a really good result would be to come in the top 6, and like top 8 would probably be kind of like a standard kind of holding my own result or whatever. And I think like then obviously like I achieved both of them, but like even if I come fourth and like the top 3 had just been away and gone and there was no way I was ever going to catch them, it wouldn't hurt as much. You know what I mean? It's more like the fact that I was close, like. But yeah, it's like, yeah, just as you're saying there, like you're nearly thinking after, like, geez, if I came 6th, I'd know exactly how to feel. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's the same principles in terms of being close, like, you know, being up there, being competitive, having the belief, all that type of stuff. But you just don't have to deal with what could have been like.
What's the plan? So we're a couple of days after the Europeans. What's your plan into the outdoor season? Is it a bit of downtime this week before you start back training, or what's your schedule like now?
Yeah, a small bit. So yeah, we take this week fairly easy. Just go for a few kind of 30 to 40 minute jogs, maybe like every second day or something. And yeah, just get the body back right, because it was a tough like few days, I suppose, obviously because with all the travel, and then the heat was actually relatively quick on Saturday, and then obviously backing it up with a quick final on Sunday as well. So my legs were pretty beat up after. So just take the week to kind of get the legs right and kind of just take the mind off running for a little bit, and then just get back into it properly next Monday, and then we have a couple of weeks training at home, and then we're going altitude training for all of April, which would be good. That'll kind of just get the ball back rolling and have me ready for the outdoors. And then I suppose like that, this is probably where I kind of get onto the positives. Then it's more like, now that I've ran as well as I did there, it'd probably be a lot easier for me to like get into a lot of the big meets at the start of the summer and attack a really big time, because I think it's definitely there.
Is it about now kind of bringing down those PBs? And like you said, you're going to race in those bigger races in the bigger, higher class caliber fields, and that'll help you bring down your PBs as well. Is that kind of the next step for you? So bring down the PBs and just keep moving forward? I
think so, yeah. Like that's kind of that's really the main thing you have to do. Like, because you only race a championship race, like an international championship race, like 2 to 3 times a year, and everything else in between is trying to get your times down and get yourself kind of higher up the rankings and stuff like that. And I suppose but like for the World Championships in Budapest in August, like the automatic standard for the 5K was brought down, lows this year brought down to like 13:07. And I suppose when it first came out, I was kind of like thinking that's definitely probably a little bit too far ahead of where I'm going to be. It's more going to be a case of trying to get in via the rankings. So that was going to be a case of like trying to run maybe 2 to 3 5Ks in May, June and July, and trying to like, kind of run around 13:15 or maybe 13:10 in all of them. Whereas I think I definitely have a bit of belief now that like I can actually get out and try and get after that automatic standard, which would be huge for a variety of reasons. Obviously getting the standard would be huge, but it would also be like just like, it would be like my best run ever by a mile, like if I was to run that quick. And you're like looking at being like probably the second or third quickest Irishman of all time, and like top probably 15 to 20 European, all that kind of region, I suppose. Like, so if I could get down to that level this year, it's like regardless of what else happens, like that everything's going so well and like training's going so well and the shape is there and stuff, and that the results in major championships will come from that. So it's definitely gonna be a busy summer. Like I'll obviously have those few 5Ks, but I also want to just continue to work on my 3K and my 15, and just try and get get even quicker. And then obviously with the World Championships in Budapest at the end of August being the main aim. And I think after like this weekend, I definitely showed that like I could beat a lot of good guys and being with a chance of making a world final.
I think it's important to remember too, and for our listeners to realise you're just 22 years of age. And I was looking through the field there from last Sunday's final, and I think you were the youngest. You were the youngest competitor in the field, and you're still new, you could say, to these major European championships. You did European Outdoors Championships last year in the men's 5,000 metre, where you were in contention for a medal going into the last lap. So there's been progress every year. So I know you're saying there now it's still so raw because it's only 48 hours ago where you came so close, but there's so many positives for you to build on. You must be very excited about what the next couple of months and years have, when you think that endurance athletes probably don't come into your peak till the late 20s.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think especially like the way that I've kind of always approached my training and stuff, and like it definitely is like a case of, I think like that is when I'll be at my best. Like, so I suppose you are kind of always just working towards that, and trying to just kind of do as much work before that as possible to get yourself to a certain level or whatever. But yeah, like I suppose at the same time it's like I was the youngest in the race, but then like Ingebrigtsen is only a month older than me and he's after winning the race, and it was but no, it is encouraging. Like, I suppose now, like until like probably last year, like you're kind of looking at your peers and it's always like the guys around you, like age wise and stuff like that, whereas now it's kind of you're more looking at the best in Europe, like which is kind of, I suppose, hard even to comprehend, because it feels like even only 2 years ago, like if I even qualified for a senior championships, I would have been delighted, or even if I was like could run within a few seconds of any of the kind of top guys in Europe, it felt like such a big deal. Whereas now, what in what feels like the click of the fingers, it's like, if I'm not beating these guys, I'm really disappointed. So I suppose like you do have to kind of, like, you're changing your mindset the whole time and changing kind of what's satisfying for you and what isn't. Like,
you were absolutely superb on Sunday, and all of West Cork is fierce proud of what you've done over the last couple of weeks, months and years, Darragh. So congrats on another great performance, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Right, thanks very much, Kieran.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Castlehaven ladies football team have been chosen as winners of the West Cork Sports Star Special Achievement Award, which will be presented in the Celtic Ross Hotel this Saturday at the West Cork Sports Star Awards. They've been on a remarkable rise in recent years. They've won 4 championship titles in a row and they're now in the senior ranks. Kieran, what makes them deserved winners of this award?
When you're looking for a winner of a Special Achievement Award, they have to have achieved something special. And if you look at Castlehaven ladies, they've won 4 successive county titles. They've gone from Junior C, Junior B, Junior A, intermediate champions 4 years in a row, and they're now up into the senior ranks for 2023. So in terms of picking Special Achievement Award winners, Castlehaven have almost set the bar there, because what they've achieved is quite spectacular, and it's been one of the success stories of West Cork sport in the last couple of years, because the ladies football club in Castlehaven was only formed 10 years ago, and before that, if you were a young girl in Castlehaven, or you were a lady footballer in Castlehaven and you wanted to play football, you had to leave the parish to play with the club. But now Castlehaven have a thriving underage ladies and girls section. They now have a senior adult women's team. So what the club has achieved in recent years is remarkable, and it's very fitting that Castlehaven are going to accept the Special Achievement Award on Saturday night. And this will be another celebration of West Cork sport. It's the 25th West Cork Sports Star Awards, so these awards are going strong. So this Saturday night promises again to put West Cork sport and its sports people front and centre. So we know Castlehaven have the Special Achievement Award. We also revealed last week in the Southern Star that Millie Condon, the young dual star from Ballinascarty, will be the first recipient of the Paddy Palmer Youth Award, which is been named in honour of the late great Paddy Palmer, who passed away in January. And it's very fitting that this award has been renamed in Paddy's memory, because he has been a part of these awards since the first year in 1998. He's one of the main reasons that these awards have grown to become the success that they are. So we just decided that we need Paddy's legacy to live on with these awards, and they will now in the form of the Paddy Palmer Youth Awards. So that's a really special award. It means a lot to all of us involved in the awards, and it's, like I said, it's very fitting that Millie Condon, who had a terrific 2022, is the first recipient. In Thursday Southern Star, we're going to reveal the 2022 West Cork Sports Star Team of the Year. On Saturday night, the overall West Cork Sports Star will be revealed. We have Brian Cody as our guest speaker. The fact that it's the 25th anniversary, we have a lot of our former winners coming back as well on the night. So it's going to be a great celebration of West Cork sport. Always a great time is guaranteed. And it's the only time in the year you'll see me in a tux. It really is, you know. I had to go sort out my tux rental today. So it's the only time that I have my James Bond imitation. So it's probably worth coming along just to see that alone.
You should have worn it now today for the podcast.
It's not ready till Friday.
Oh, okay. They're looking after it for you. We're going to hear now from Castlehaven duo Rachel Whelton and Emma Daly, who spoke to Kieran earlier this week.
So Castlehaven are going to pick up the Special Achievement Award at the 2022 West Cork Sports Star Awards on Saturday night. Rachel, can you make room in your trophy cabinet for one more accolade?
Definitely, and we can make room for more at the end of the year, hopefully, as well. And no, look, it's a great achievement to get, I think, like, to be recognised, you know, like, of all the teams in West Cork. I mean, it's a great achievement, a special achievement, and it's nice to get the recognition. But no, we definitely have a space for another award in the cabinet, for sure.
Emma, we're talking about the Special Achievement Award, and what Castlehaven have achieved over the last couple of years, it deserves this accolade, it deserves this award, because it goes beyond special. Like, it's been incredible what you have done, your rise to senior. And just for our listeners, just to emphasise that the Castlehaven team have won 4 county championship titles in a row: Junior C 2019, Junior B 2020, Junior A 2021, and Intermediate last year. And now you completed that stunning surge up to the senior ranks. But thinking back to 2017, Emma, when Castlehaven were competing in the Junior D Championship, do you think anyone could have envisaged the rise that Castlehaven have had?
No, like, we, as a team anyway, we didn't see it happening that way. Like, it's, I suppose people don't see the commitment and everything that goes on behind the scenes for all of this. Like, it's not like we just run out in the pitch and play football. Like, we've put in some amount of effort the last 6 or 7 years now at this stage. You know, like, it's great behind us to keep going every single year, and just have the same kind of management, a few extras here and there. You know, it does make a difference. And yeah, no, like, it's good to be noticed now as well for it. Yeah, we're delighted.
Rachel, Emma mentioned there about the management. Have you tied Drinagh Rangers down to a long-term contract yet?
Oh, I don't know. And just to add to what Emma was saying there, Drinagh claims that he knew this was all going to happen. He saw it all panning out this way. But no, look, in fairness, like, he's a special man, in fairness to him. You know, to take on that role a couple of years ago, like, nobody thought it was, you know, we were going to go very far as fast as we did anyway, you know. And just Drinnagh's, like, he's gas, in fairness, how he's just put in so much effort. Like, he's just non-stop. And in fairness, like, to Brian and John and Tina and Maeve as well, like, they just put in so much work behind the scenes that I think goes unnoticed sometimes. Like, I was at Maeve's house there one day during the summer. She's our manager, and She was non-stop on the phone all morning long. She was on to Dinny, then she was on to referees, on to pitches, on to, other management of other teams trying to get challenge matches, and, then sending in texts to our group, who's there, who's not there, can you come to training? Like, from all of them, from the 5 of them, like, it's unbelievable. And to have Finbar Santry on board now this year as well is great. Like, Finbar is always knocking around. So, he's had experience with the under 16s now the last few years, and those girls are filtering through again. So, no, we're very lucky that we have such a committed management team, and for them to be there from the start, I think, especially for Dinny, is very special.
I have a nice, easy question for you next. What's the secret to Castlehaven success?
Oh God, there's no secret. No secret worth telling anyway. No, I suppose it's just commitment. It all comes down to that. Like, if you don't have the commitment from the girls from day one, from the slogging through nearly up to your ankles in a wet, soggy pitch in January to, if you don't have that, and you don't have the running, and you don't have the continuous commitment from the girls, you're never going to have a team that's, going to do as well, let's say. Definitely, you need to put in the work early to be at your fittest and your best by the time, league and championship comes around.
Like I mentioned earlier, you've won so much in the last couple of years, those 4 county titles in a row. So this question is for both of you. What's been your highlight in the last 4 seasons? If you can pick any one final, any one game, any one moment, does something stand out for you immediately when you think of a memory that you'll never forget?
I think Dunmanway anyway for me, when we played Dunmanway at county final 2 years ago, and like, we had never seen free kicks happen before. I don't even think most of us knew it existed, and like, for it to go that far and then be that tight the whole way through it, like, it was just, your adrenaline was the only thing that was keeping you going through the whole lot of that. And I feel like that was kind of a point I was like, oh my God, like, we could actually, we can still win this. And I feel like that was kind of one of my highlights anyway. I've had many, but that was probably the most fresh one in my head at the minute.
Rachel?
Yeah, I think the West Cork final, I think last year against Clan was a special one as well. I think it kind of, I suppose, in the middle of the summer, like, our championship was later in the year, and it kind of gave us a boost. It was very close to the league final as well. And I think for a lot of us, we kind of, it was a moment of realization, really, like, that God, Clan are a senior team, and, how we really competed that day and really performed. And, I suppose coped well under pressure as well. It was a tit for tat match. It was really, really close. And it was a particularly really hot day as well. It was a lovely, lovely day that day. So it just sticks out in my memory as being a scorcher. But I think that, like I said, was a moment of realization for a lot of girls on the team that, look, we can, win this intermediate, and we can, I suppose, challenge the senior teams that are in West Cork and Cork County as well. So I suppose that kind of drove us on then for the rest of the year. And I suppose the West Cork final, they're always kind of special as well. You kind of remember the West Cork final wins that you had, at underage when we were playing with the boys. So I suppose it was nice to win a West Cork final then as a lady in a ladies competition maybe.
That's a great point, Emma, that Rachel's after mentioning there, beating Clonakilty in that West Cork League Division, the West Cork Championship Division 1 final last year, because Clan are a senior team, and now Castlehaven are up in the senior ranks this year. So how much are you looking forward to testing yourself in the Senior County Championship? You're up against the Mourneabbeys, the Éire Oaks, the Clonakiltys, the Kinsale. Like, how excited are you for the championship later in the summer?
Yeah, no, I feel like it'll be a great challenge for the whole lot of us. I feel like we're all really looking forward to it, because it's something new again. Like, we're not going back into the same championship with the same teams. It's always something new, and there's always something to look forward to in that. And then, when you do get to play those bigger kind of teams that have had their name out there for so long, that, like, you get a good kind of gist of where your team is at as well. Playing them, we'll get to play a lot of them in the league as well. So that'll give us a good indication of where we're at, I suppose.
Rachel, which senior team are you looking forward to playing against the most?
I suppose the big guns, Mourneabbey, like, they're the ones to beat. They're, top of the championship now at the moment, and have been thereabouts the last few years. So I suppose we'll aim big and we'll say Mourneabbey.
And so far, Emma, like the preparation for the season, like your first year up in the senior ranks, have you found even a step up in intensity over the winter and training now? Is there a renewed focus ahead of the biggest challenge that you faced?
Yeah, I suppose like there is a lot more to training now. I suppose it's, you're getting a bit more tactical, and you have to be that step fitter, that step stronger. They're all, hopefully we've done enough nearly in pre-season to compete with them, but sure we'll know more now when we actually do step up and have our games against them.
This is one of the remarkable stories in West Cork sport over the last couple of years. We've all enjoyed watching your rise up to the senior ranks. And when you think, Rachel, that the Castlehaven Ladies Football Club was formed in the summer of 2013, and how far you've come in that short space of time, it's incredible. Because when you started off playing with First, like, you had to go outside the parish to play football before you came back in to Castlehaven once that club was formed. So how important is it for the young girls in the parish now to have that senior team to aim for? Like, you've had underage success over the last couple of years, but now to have that senior team, and for the young girls, like I said, to watch you and to see what you've done, and now to receive this Special Achievement Award on top of everything, that's more recognition. So it's just, these are really good times for the ladies football in Castlehaven.
Oh, absolutely. And like, even next Sunday after the sports award, there's actually the underage presentation of medals. So the under 12 and under 14 girls are getting their medals along with the lads. And like, I think it's really important. And a few of us were invited to go to that awards. And I think it's really important for the younger girls coming through to see those female role models, and to go back and to train teams and to get involved with teams. And like, Emma's now involved with the under 21s this year, and I'm involved with Dinny with the under 12s. So like, I think it's really important to give back as well, and to be around and to be that female role model for girls growing up in Castlehaven, that they have someone to look up to. Like, we were always looking up to like the likes of Brian Hurley, or David Limerick, or Paddy Hurley, or people like these when we were younger. So like, it was always males that we looked up to. So I think it's really important for the girls to have, a female role model in their lives, that they can say, oh look, there's Emma, she sees her training and then she goes back and trains her team. I think that's really important. And like, senior now, we need players filtering through year after year, and I think that comes from our underage structures. And like, there's huge work being done underage, like even going to the under 12s now, like they're flying it, like they have all the basics. And I think it's just fine-tuning that and working on that year after year. But absolutely, like, the structures that we have in Castlehaven are brilliant. And like I said, we need those girls filtering through year after year if we want to compete at senior. If we're looking more long term, we need those younger girls coming through. And like, last year we had a 15-year-old playing with us. We had lots of under 16s and like 17s, 18s. And we need those younger girls to come through year after year. It's not enough to just have one or two girls coming up. And I think that'll be really important, especially as we look more long-term into the future.
Just to pick up on that point, so Emma, Rachel said there you're involved with the under 21s this year. How much do you enjoy the coaching side of it, and how important is it like in Castlehaven to give back into the club again?
Yeah, no, it is great. I suppose the under 21 championship is quite short, so it kind of suits me with my own training and stuff like that. But yeah, no, like, it's great. And you know what, you build a great bond with the younger girls as well. Like, they could be, nearly 10 years younger than you, and you still have a great bond with them, and they can come and talk to you, and if they have a question or a problem, they have no problem coming that way. And I just think it's nice to see, because everyone seems to have great morale together, and there's a great friendship and kind of bond between all age categories nearly, from minor or under 16 even up to senior level. It's just nice that everyone kind of gets along, and they're all pushing each other on as well, kind of fighting for places, and it's nice to see. Yeah, definitely.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. We'll take a look now, Kieran, at what's coming up in this Thursday's Southern Star.
So we've a two-page special ahead of the West Cork Sports Star Awards, just revealing who the team of the year is, looking at the monthly winners, looking at the history of the awards over the last 25 years. So it's the perfect build-up to Saturday night in the Celtic Ross Hotel in Rosscarbery. Of course, we've the inter-county scene covered. We've good coverage of the Cork footballers and an interview with John Cleary on the progress that Cork have made to date. Also, they mentioned the Cork Camogie team did a super win over Tipperary last weekend. It was a top of the table clash Cork passed their latest test, so they're now top of the table in Division 1A, and they're going quite well. Bringing it back to the local scene for a second, Hamilton High School in Bandon, they won their All-Ireland Colleges Senior B semi-final last weekend, so they're through to the All-Ireland final, which is coming up soon, and we catch up with Aidan O'Donoghue, their coach. Of course, we have reaction from the European indoors. We chat to Darragh McElhinney's coach, Emmett Dunleavy, about Darragh and where he's at in his career right now and what's next for him. We also catch up with both Joan Healy and Phil Healy, who are both in action too at the European indoors. We also have a chat with Bandon Ravens Basketball Club are looking for women for their senior basketball team. So if you want to play basketball and you're around the Bandon area, Bandon Ravens are looking for you. So check out Thursday's Southern Star for more on that. And also in road bowling, with details of the Senior Intermediate Women's Championship draw for 2023. And for Hannah Sexton, the reigning champion, she's going to face a couple of tough battles. She's been grouped with Emma Fitzpatrick from Rosscarbery, Veronica O'Mahony, and Geraldine Curtin, who was previously Geraldine Daly, who was a previous and former county winner. So that's going to be quite a tough group for Hannah Sexton. We also have all the soccer and rugby news, and you name it, we have it this week. It's packed, Dylan.
Packed as always. All of that will be available in shops across West Cork from Thursday morning. Elsewhere in the paper, there'll also be a special St. Patrick's Day preview guide. So if you're looking for something to do on St. Patrick's Day around West Cork, we have you covered there as well. As always, if you're further afield or you can't make it to the shops, you can subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. So just go to www.subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. Again, that's anywhere on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar.ie. And as always, thank you for listening to the Star Sport podcast. And thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks for listening.